Good morning once again, everybody. Next on the list, we are going to talk about something that came up in the shorts reels as I was going through them today. Just in the off time. And this dude put essentially a comment of like an ex post up talking about the fact that he has a 15-year-old daughter who brought over one of her female friends from school, and immediately his like 12, 13-year-old son started walking around the house with kettlebells and all of a sudden became a perfect ramen cook. And it's just like, there you go. That's the motivation right there. That that is how things actually work. All right. Literally all of human civilization is built on that alone. Okay. But it also forced me to think about the not so fun part of work environments, which is, and I got to be honest with you, I stand very much with the idea that we should not have labor forces that are mixed gender. All right. I stick to the idea that dudes should work with other dudes, chicks should work with other chicks. That's the way it should be. Because this same transition, this same shift instantly changes the workforce dynamics. All right. If you are working for a company that is a full blown sausage factory, okay, and you introduce one female to the equation, instantly, instantly, every single guy in that workforce in that building will all start ruffling each other's feathers trying to find or narrow down their exact position in the hierarchy, all right, in an instant. Okay. And they will almost immediately, as soon as they kind of lock in subconsciously their position, they will all try to go for it. Okay. Which of course leads to problems. All right. Especially when the corporate power dynamic comes into effect. Like this, I've seen this repeated at so many places that I've worked in the past that I I can't look past it. And to the extent that like I have, oh, you could say that I have led a crusade against this kind of shit, and it's because I know what happens. I've seen it so many times before that I know what ends up happening in the end in nearly every case. Okay? Girl comes in, starts screwing either a manager or a supervisor, somebody with power higher than that of the rest of the grease monkeys on the floor. Next in line, if they start running into like a rough spot or anything in the relationship, generally the girl, because the women normally don't have power, thank God. I've seen what happens when women have power at workplaces too, and it's disastrous. Anyway, in fact, the one that I'm thinking of ended up um, in kind of a large lawsuit because they were too busy focusing on trying to push out all of the male employees. Like this place was legitimately doing actual discrimination. Um, but it was a bunch of man hating lesbians. They pushed out all the guys, and then they put all of the, because older lesbians, they were very much focused on getting the girls doing the younger girls that they'd love to stare at for obvious reasons, doing all the work at this business that shall not be named. And of course, these girls are young and inexperienced, and some shit goes down, and they end up in massive lawsuits because the young girls didn't know how to contain the situation, and it created a clusterfuck. Okay. But anyway, just follow me with this example real quick. So, a girl comes into a mostly male-dominated workplace, starts banging one of the salaried workers, whether it's supervisory staff, whether it's management, doesn't particularly matter. They just have to have more power, ideally, write up power. Okay. If they run into a rough spot, all right, the one of the things that women will do, everybody knows this, any guy knows this, you've seen it a billion fucking times before, I guarantee it. She will try to make him jealous. So she will find whichever guy he dislikes the most. Okay? She will find whatever guy she dislikes the most, he dislikes the most, or she will go for the guy who seems, at least physically, superior to the supervisor or manager. She then starts glazing, quote unquote, or no, I suppose glowing up wouldn't necessarily work there, but she starts throwing game at this normal employee dude, especially if they're new, they don't necessarily know what's up. What ends up happening is supervisor or manager guy gets jealous and then immediately starts, because he can't do anything to the chick because the chick that they were screwing obviously has all of the dirt on them. So they go and they torture the dude employee on the floor. All right. That happens so goddamn often. All right. And like, because women's manipulation tactics, it doesn't matter if it's in the workplace or out of the workplace. They all do the exact same shit. All right. The younger they are, the worse it is. And then what ends up happening is you get discrimination lawsuits, you get all sorts of fucking headaches and problems. And there are 3 different companies that I've worked for in the past where, because of shit like this, one day the situations got so overboard. Things went so overboard, drama completely blew up. And what ended up happening, because at the corporate level, if you're looking at middle management, you're sitting there like, okay, problem, problem, problem. Eventually, you stop looking at the problems as necessarily coming from the individual workers. You start looking at the confluence of problems and the rapidity and the type and the nature. And then at a certain point, you start looking at your middle managerial staff. Okay, you start looking at them like, okay, you know what? You seem to have a lot of these problems going on, and now we're going to shift focus and we're going to start looking at how management is actually operating. Then what happens is you have a big dramatic catalyzing event, and corporate management looks at the middle management and says, all right, we're going to be making some changes. The changes are generally mulled over with doublespeak, so they don't really have to say anything. All right. Saying things without saying things, but ideally distracting people, getting them off track, not, trying to divert them from thinking, obviously, that corporate's coming to kick some shit in. And then what ends up happening is management essentially gets purged from if you think about like a smaller location, corporate comes in, kicks the door in, metaphorically speaking, purges all of the leadership staff at the location and replaces them with the corporate, uh, I want to say TISM drones, people who are not local to the area, people who have absolutely no connection to any of the people possibly working at that location. And these people, they don't just, they're not scribbling outside the lines. They're not even drawing to the lines. They're drawing 8 feet back from the lines. All right. Their coloring books look terrible. All right. But these people are so tight, like hair thickness, that every single little thing becomes a problem. And then people that may have worked for a place for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, doesn't matter. It's not too many places like that left, but the places that have had people that have become fundamental to it that you just expected would be there forever and work until they finally retired. Those people, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, they start getting purged out by the new management left and right for every tiny little infraction, all right? These people, when it comes to being tight asses, all right, their asses are legitimately so tight that they could spawn a new fucking universe from it, all right? It causes a singularity and an event collapse simultaneously, triggering a big bang. These people are not the people you want to deal with, all right? It's much easier to actually keep shit contained, to actually deal with these problems, not ideally, not even have to deal with these problems. Nip the shit in the source, all right? Get everything at the beginning as early as you can before any possible shit shows happen, all right? If you stay reasonably on top of things as a manager, you're relatively safe. It's when you let people have that rope that you would normally use to build a file and fire people. It's when you start letting people have so much rope that they run it off the reel that things get bad, that things get hairy. All right. Especially during the days where everything's, oh my God, my feelings. Wait, where you're expected to, for ESG reasons or just corporate social governance bullshit, you're expected to cater to grown adults who are acting like fucking children. All right. And I mean, if they were acting like children just at base, it'd be one thing, but they act like spoiled children. All right. It just it's terrible. It sucks. It's bullshit. I know. I have seen both sides. I've seen all sides of how these things go. Okay? Regardless, you start seeing people get picked off left and right by the new incredibly singularity forming tight assed replacement managers that come in, and eventually what ends up happening from that is you purge all the people who've been there for a while who are actually really good at the job, and one of two things happens. Either corporate has to come back in and start, they don't really want to fire these people. Corporations have this odd little ball ache of a knack where instead of purging people to get them out of locations, they promote them. All right. So they'll go in and they will either start promoting these people to get them out of the location to put in more normalized locals who aren't going to fuck up the operation by actually doing what corporate commands, or they start rolling up the operation because at this point it's barely, if at all, profitable, and it increasingly becomes it's just not cost effective to keep unproductive sectors going. All right. But back to the original point. So many people, and believe me, I understand it. I get it. If you're working 40, 60, 80 hours a week, all right, you literally don't have a life. Your life is whatever job or jobs you're working. All right. You literally cannot actually live a life. You're spending all of your fucking time at work. It gets worse when you work the night shifts. All right. If you work night shifts at a company, obviously, you are looking at the reality that, all right, well, you're not just going out on any random night and going to bars and clubs, even though those are mostly dead. you've got no social life. All right. And then as soon as you're done with work for the night, especially, you are just sleeping through the morning and into most of the day. Circumstances depend. Things change. People, when you work night shift consistently, you're fucking up your circadian rhythm. You're more likely for different diseases, heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, mostly because of the junk food and vending machines. But you put yourself at all sorts of fucking risk working the night shift. So you're also sleeping more because your body's hopefully trying to keep the shit contained enough that you don't just fall over dead. But you have little to no life, all right, whether it's by the hours or the type of schedule. So obviously, it makes sense that if you have no social life, you start turning work into your own playground for your fantasies. You start having a little bit too much fun at work. You start chasing the girls at work. You start doing all of these things that initially you wouldn't have considered, but honestly, at this point, 3, 6, 9, 12 months in, the place has likely already crippled you to that level of depression and burnout where you just stop giving a fuck anymore, and then you go off the rails, and the whole organization goes off the rails. Now, this happens again and again and again and again and again. It gets worse the longer the hours. The longer the hours, the longer the shifts, the worse the shifts, the more it happens. Give me just a second. But this is fundamental. All right. Dudes, no matter what, are always going to be chasing tail. All right. If they cannot, if they don't have the financial resources to go out and have a life, or they just don't have a schedule that allows it, they're going to find some way to get their fun. They're going to get some way to get their kicks. And in the process, that continues again and again, and it creates problems that destroy workplaces. All right. It's fundamental. You can't look past it. All right. When it comes to work, especially in terms of efficiency, all right. Not that I necessarily am the biggest preacher for efficiency, but when it comes to efficiency, male only workplaces are more efficient. Things just run more smoothly. You introduce females to it. Obviously, females are less physically capable. All right. And they're constantly in moods or some other shit. And not only do you have the fact that your more productive male workers are going to split off time to help the poor, defenseless, incapable women, but that did not come off as funny as it was supposed to. My apologies. You have your quality male workers peeling off time to help the poor, defenseless, incapable women. All right. And it drags down productivity. All right. And that's before drama even starts. That's before who's fucking who and any of the overly dramatic shit starts. But then, of course, you also have the fact that women take off way more time. And they, in terms of resource usage, they're tapping the company health plan more and they're tapping all the other resources more. All right. Even though they're offered, it's a thing. Males subsidize females in literally every aspect of life, whether it's car insurance, health insurance, literally anything. Retirement, Social Security, men paying more, women take out more. All right. These things are fundamental. This is the way it is. All right. Ideally, if you want to have an operation run well, you hire exclusively males. That's the reality. Now, is that discriminatory? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's the thing, it's part of the reason why, if you try to honestly run any kind of large operation in the US, especially the fact that the government can and will sue people, sue organizations for doing something like that. Honestly, the long-term costs and consequences of trying to fit into a mold that just doesn't work is you can't even tally it. You cannot even tally it. Think about all of the equipment that was made poorly because, I don't know, something female feelings interfered. Think about every single step of every single production and logistics chain where women either slowed down the process or were more of a hindrance in some way to the process. Okay? Directly or indirectly. Honestly, I stand behind it where possible. Where possible, where there is enough legal protection to do it, hiring exclusively males is the way to go. And you also get the added benefit of when you hire males, guys normally aren't running and crying to the HR lady every week. Okay? It just doesn't happen. All right? If a dude was running to HR to complain about another dude literally every week or every month or whatever, um, immediately the rest of the people around him would be like, dude, you're being a bitch. Knock it off. All right. Just nascently. All right. Women, on the other hand, with the feelings and they, it's a thing. They just are problematic to a smooth, high efficiency, highly productive operation. All right. And this is the thing. If you could do it whilst covering your ass legally, all right, in any country on earth, if you can have an exclusively male workforce, there's literally no way in hell productivity does not increase. There is no way that bottom line profits don't grow from that. All right, especially now, honestly, more and more women are whining and complaining. It's almost like it's a recurring theme, but more and more women are whining and complaining about having to go out and work, after all the years, decades, generations of feminism, preaching girl boss bullshit. Women have gotten to the point where now they're actually at the finding out phase in terms of, well, all right, you want it to act like a man, you want it to earn like a man, you want to be a man, okay, well, time to work 80 hours a week. And they are bucking that. They hate that. They hate having to hold two jobs. They hate the fact that, whatever jobs they do have are consistently full of drama. And it's just like, well, some women are better than others. Some women are incredibly dramatic and constantly find something to whine and cry about. Some women are relatively tough and rugged. I've seen both sides. I understand both sides. The tough and rugged ones, honestly, if you work your ass off, yeah, you should totally have the right to vote. All right. The weak women who just want to be taken care of but want to pretend that that's not the ultimate target. The girls who pretend to, they act out as if they were men, but when things honestly get hard, they are running to the kitchen and baking cookies. Yeah. The majority of women don't even want to fucking work anymore. All right. And honestly, I can't necessarily say if it's because they turned the workplace into a fucking soap opera or if they just internally hate the fucking idea of actually having to come through with their end of the deal of women's rights and feminism. It's just like, okay, congratulations. You have the right to work. Now you have the right to work all the shit jobs that you've been avoiding all these years. All right. We don't need any more liberal arts majors. We need people to pick up the garbage in New York City. Okay. Which I don't know if you've seen some of the images, but New York City is literally going to become the city of the rats. All right. I mean, it already kind of is, but like we're getting to fucking Gotham City Batman levels of filth in New York, and it's just like Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, you guys voted, you wanted socialism. Congratulations. Congratulations. You got it. But women don't want to hold up their end of the bargain, regardless of all the shit. After all the generations of we can do it, women would rather stay at home all day, bake cookies, and not have to work and grind and suffer the same ways that men have for centuries. Regardless, I'll end it here. Um, by all means, if you're a female and you disagree, leave it in the comment section below. I will read it, but I stand firm to my own beliefs, and my beliefs do not represent Spades Consulting LLC, any of its members, partners. This is strictly the way I look at things. This is strictly my opinion. Okay. That being said, I'm okay with people hating me. It's okay. It's nothing new. I have had many people hate me in the past. All right. It doesn't bother me. It's the thing. The real world is a fucking mess, and honestly, the people who, when it comes to people who weren't fans of the shit that was coming out of my mouth, the people who absolutely would not listen to what I have to say, yeah, this is their economy. This is their economy. The consequences of all the shit that you see today is because guys like me were relatively quiet and, sitting back on the sidelines watching all the people who thought they knew better go and fuck up literally everything they touched. So, if you're interested in actually having some kind of success in this world, stop by www.spadesconsulting.com if you are in need of personal or business advice. If you are interested in written content, check out the Substack. It is in the links in the description below, and it is on the nav for the website. If you appreciate the video, like, favorite, share, sub, ring the bell, ding the bell, tickle the bell, spank the bell, do whatever you want to do to the bell, to your heart's content. Have at it. I will see you guys next time.